July 4th, 2025, dawned in the Texas Hill Country with a gentle rain, welcome after months of drought. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, and for the first time in weeks, hope seemed to return to the land. Farmers and families alike looked out their windows, grateful for the relief, believing the worst of the dry season was finally behind them. The soft patter of rain on rooftops was almost musical, a soothing backdrop to what many expected would be a day of celebration and rest. But as the sun rose, that rain became a relentless torrent, overwhelming the parched earth. The gentle drizzle quickly transformed into sheets of water, pounding the ground with a force that no one had anticipated. Roads that had been cracked and dusty just hours before were now slick and treacherous, and the sky darkened with ominous clouds that refused to break. Water rushed down hillsides, turning trickles into raging rivers in minutes. Small creeks, usually dry or barely flowing, swelled with astonishing speed, their banks unable to contain the sudden surge. The sound of rushing water echoed through the valleys, growing louder and more menacing with every passing second. The Guadalupe River, usually a summer playground, became a monster, rising 26 feet in just 45 minutes. Campers and locals who had gathered along its banks for the holiday watched in disbelief as the water climbed higher and higher, swallowing picnic tables, playgrounds, and entire stretches of riverbank. The river's transformation was both swift and terrifying, leaving no time for preparation. Families awoke not to celebration but to chaos, homes ripped from foundations, cars and trees swept away. The force of the water was unimaginable, tearing through neighborhoods with a violence that shattered the morning calm. People scrambled to gather loved ones and pets, but the floodwaters moved faster than anyone could have predicted. Screams were drowned by the roar of the flood as people scrambled for their lives. Streets became rivers, and familiar landmarks disappeared beneath the churning water. Panic set in as families realized escape routes were vanishing, and every second counted in the desperate rush to higher ground. There was no warning, no time to escape, just a desperate fight for survival. Some clung to rooftops, waving frantically for help, while others braved the current, searching for missing family members. Emergency services were overwhelmed, and neighbors became rescuers, risking their own lives to pull others from the water. The landscape that drew people here became a trap, funneling water with deadly speed. The rolling hills and narrow valleys, so beautiful in the sunlight, now channeled the floodwaters with terrifying efficiency, amplifying their destructive power. What was once a place of peace and natural beauty had turned into a corridor of devastation. In moments, the promise of a festive holiday was replaced by devastation. Streets were littered with debris, broken furniture, shattered glass, and the remnants of lives upended in an instant. The American flags that had been hung in anticipation of celebration now hung tattered and soaked, symbols of a community in mourning. The floodwaters battered everything in their path, leaving only destruction behind. Buildings that had stood for generations were reduced to rubble, and entire neighborhoods were unrecognizable beneath layers of mud and wreckage. The scale of the disaster was almost impossible to comprehend. For countless families, July 4th became a day of unimaginable loss. Instead of fireworks and laughter, there was only grief and disbelief. The community would never forget the morning when nature's fury changed everything in the blink of an eye. The disaster wasn't limited to one river or town. It swept across Texas and into New Mexico. The storm dumped record rain, swelling rivers like the Frio, Llano, and Lampasas to historic levels. Kerr County was hit hardest, with steep terrain turning rain into instant deadly floods. Neighborhoods vanished, bridges collapsed, and roads became rivers, isolating entire communities. Rescue efforts were hampered by relentless rain and dangerous currents. Even San Antonio's famous river walk was threatened as urban waterways surged. The flood's reach was vast, leaving scars on both rural towns and major cities. Texans faced a disaster that defied all expectations. Amid the chaos, as the floodwaters surged through streets and homes, the world seemed to stand still. The relentless force of nature left entire neighborhoods submerged, cars swept away, and families stranded on rooftops, clinging to hope as the rain continued to pour. Sirens echoed through the night and the air was thick with fear and uncertainty. In the aftermath, stories of survival and loss emerged from the wreckage. Survivors embraced one another, grateful to be alive, while others searched desperately for missing loved ones among the debris. The faces of those who had lost everything reflected both heartbreak and resilience, as communities came together to support one another in the darkest of times. One remarkable story was that of a young girl, swept 25 kilometers downriver by the raging current. Alone and terrified, she survived by clinging to a tree for hours, battered by wind and rain, until rescuers finally reached her. Her ordeal became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the most desperate circumstances, the human spirit can endure. In the small town of Hunt, a family found themselves trapped as the water rose rapidly around their home. With nowhere else to go, they climbed onto their roof, huddling together under a single blanket. To keep their baby calm, the parents sang lullabies, their voices trembling but determined. Hours later, a neighbor braved the floodwaters to reach them, guiding them to safety. But for every miracle, there was heartbreak. Families separated in the chaos, children lost in the torrent, and lives forever changed. The grief was overwhelming, as parents searched for missing children and friends mourned those who would never return. Emotional reunions brought tears of relief, but for many the pain of loss lingered. Many of the victims were tourists, their holiday dreams shattered in an instant. Vacationers found themselves stranded in unfamiliar places, their belongings swept away by the flood. What began as a joyful escape turned into a nightmare, as families and friends struggled to find each other amid the devastation. The flood was indiscriminate, claiming the young and old alike. Children, seniors, and people from all walks of life were caught in its path. Rescue teams worked tirelessly, carrying the elderly to safety and comforting frightened children, determined to save as many lives as possible. In the face of disaster, neighbors risked their lives for each other, forming human chains to pull people from the water. First responders battled impossible odds, navigating treacherous currents and collapsing roads to reach those in need. Ordinary citizens became heroes, wading through chest-deep water to help strangers. Yet despite every effort, many families vanished without a trace, their homes reduced to piles of debris. Streets once filled with laughter and life were now empty, marked by missing person posters and the haunting silence of loss. Each empty house told a story of a life interrupted, a favorite toy left behind, family photos scattered in the mud, memories washed away by the relentless flood. The devastation was not just physical, but emotional, as entire histories were erased in a matter of hours. The 2025 flood was a tapestry of resilience and tragedy, woven from countless acts of courage, heartbreak, and hope. In the aftermath, communities began the long process of rebuilding, drawing strength from each other as they faced an uncertain future together. As waters receded, the true scale of loss became clear. Over 150 confirmed dead, with more than 120 still missing, each name a shattered family. Economic damage soared past $22 billion, with thousands of homes obliterated. Roads and power lines were gone, complicating recovery for a state in shock. The emotional toll was immeasurable. Communities once known for charm now bore the weight of tragedy. Survivors faced years of trauma and rebuilding. Texas began the painful process of mourning and recovery. The flood's devastation was the result of a perfect storm of conditions. Months of drought left the ground hard as concrete, unable to absorb rain. Water raced off hills and canyons, funneled into rivers with explosive force. Wooden homes along the river stood no chance, many were swept away entirely. The disaster struck with shocking speed, leaving no time for warnings or evacuation. Residents and tourists alike were caught off guard. The unique geography, drought, and vulnerable housing turned a summer rain into catastrophe. It's a disaster experts will study for years. To grasp the flood's impact, you must understand Texas itself. It's vast, bigger than France and Switzerland combined, with 30 million residents and a fierce independent spirit. Texas is a land of contrasts. Piney woods, deserts, and the rolling hills now marked by tragedy. Its cities, Houston, Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, are economic powerhouses and cultural icons. San Antonio, famed for its Riverwalk, was among the cities hit hard by the flood. The state's diversity and history shape its resilience. From NASA to the world's largest bat colony, Texas is a place of superlatives. Now it faces the challenge of rebuilding after disaster. Texas culture is a fascinating blend of old traditions and new ambitions, where the rugged cowboy spirit meets the innovative drive of tech moguls. In Texas, the echoes of the Wild West still linger, with wide-open plains and cattle drives, but now they share the stage with bustling cities and cutting-edge technology companies. This unique mix creates a state where history and progress walk hand in hand, shaping a culture that's both proud of its roots and eager to embrace the future. From the adrenaline of rodeos to the awe-inspiring spectacle of rocket launches, Texas is a place where tradition and innovation collide. The Cowboys' legendary independence and grit still define the state's identity, inspiring generations to push boundaries and take risks. Whether it's riding a bull or launching a spacecraft, Texans are known for their fearless pursuit of greatness. But Texas is more than just its iconic imagery. It's also a global economic powerhouse. With a GDP that rivals entire countries, Texas stands tall on the world stage. Its cities are alive with energy, commerce, and opportunity, drawing people from all walks of life to chase their dreams in the Lone Star State. The state's growth is fueled by a diverse range of industries. Oil and gas have long been the backbone of Texas, but today, technology, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing are just as vital. Innovators and entrepreneurs from around the globe flock to Texas, eager to be part of its dynamic economy and bold vision for the future. To support this growth, Texas boasts world-class infrastructure, sprawling airports, extensive highways, and vibrant cities that pulse with life. Its population is a vibrant tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions, making Texas one of the most diverse states in the nation. Take Houston, for example, a city where global connections are woven into the very fabric of daily life. Here, communities from every corner of the world come together, and international businesses thrive, reflecting Texas's role as a crossroads of culture and commerce. Throughout history, Texas has produced leaders who have shaped not just the state but the entire nation. From presidents and political icons to visionary entrepreneurs, Texans have always been at the forefront of change, innovation, and leadership. Today, this dynamic and resilient culture faces new challenges, the test of recovery and renewal. But if history is any guide, Texans will meet these challenges head-on, drawing on their deep roots and bold spirit to build an even brighter future. The 2025 flood is just the latest chapter in Texas's long battle with nature. From the Galveston hurricane of 1900 to Hurricane Harvey in 2017, Texans have faced disaster before. Each event has left scars and lessons in its wake. Communities have rebuilt, engineered defenses, and fostered a spirit of mutual support. But extreme weather is becoming more frequent and intense. The struggle between humanity and nature is ongoing. The floods of 2025 are a stark reminder. Adaptation is essential. The Texas flood is more than a local tragedy. It's a warning from a changing planet. Climate change is fueling more extreme, unpredictable weather, turning ordinary storms into disasters. Warmer air holds more moisture, leading to heavier rainfall and catastrophic floods. Rising seas and shifting jet streams make storms linger and intensify. Even inland areas are now at risk, as drought and deluge collide. The resilience of Texans is inspiring, but rebuilding isn't enough. We must address the root causes, cutting emissions and investing in sustainable solutions. The rising waters in Texas are a call to action for us all.